Okay, so how about some politics in this election season? Here's a fact. Elected officials, they have the same First Amendment rights as the rest of us, but there are some things that elected officials need to keep in mind that the general public probably doesn't care about. There are specific laws, for example, tailored to lawmakers' work and the content that they produce because of the fact that sometimes often, they're in a public space using public resources or even public money. Lawmakers actually passed a law in 2018 with the statement of purpose saying in part, quote, "It's to ensure that public funds, resources, and property are not used to influence at the ballot box." It's a tricky area of the law, but it's now in focus for those concerned about a series of anti-Prop 1 videos being published on social media by a political action committee that is pushing against Proposition 1. So whether you support the open primary and ranked choice voting option or not, there is attention on where and how the videos featuring elected sitting lawmakers, how are these made? Where were they filmed? Complaints to the Attorney General's office say that some elected politicians crossed the line.
My name is Brandon Mitchell.
I'm Brian Lenny.
I'm Clint Hostetler.
I'm Jaron Crane.
If you follow Idaho politics online, there's a good chance you have seen this series of videos from Idaho Republicans, paid for and created by the Political Action Committee, one person, one vote.
So the idea that ranked choice voting is somehow fair.
Elected lawmakers, candidates to win legislative office in November, and at least a constitutional officer appear in the videos speaking out against Proposition 1 in various ways. Something that drew attention in the Prop 1 campaign, questions about the use of the state seal on yard signs across the valley. Seems that those are in bounds, but these videos also include the state seal, creating new similar questions. But there's something else that some Idahoans are now looking at in these videos. Where were they filmed? Sources tell me they were, in fact, filmed inside a closed committee room at the Statehouse following the legislative session. That assertion has some asking if the videos are a violation of Idaho's Public Integrity in Elections Act.
I felt like it was an improper use of state facilities.
Representative Ned Burns of Bellevue, Idaho, reached out to the Attorney General's office about his concerns.
We had a conversation and I said, I would like you to look into it. And if anything comes of it, the videos should come down, a warning should be issued.
Idaho code says neither a public entity nor any of its employees shall use, nor shall a public official authorizer use, public property or resources to advocate for or against a candidate or a ballot measure. There is an exemption in the law, though, for, quote, legislators' use of public property or resources for communication with the public using electronic or traditional physical correspondence, aka emails and letters, or the use of any portion of any media initially produced using public property or resources from recordings of the legislature or any legislative committees, aka recordings of legislative hearings and votes that we cover. Representative Burns doesn't read the exception as including these videos.
I mean, if you want to, potentially grab a clip of something you said in a committee hearing or something that you spoke on the House floor, I don't think I've got a problem with that. But, most lawmakers have done it. We've all posted clips of ourselves on our social media accounts. That to me is completely in bounds. But this feels like it's out of bounds, in my opinion.
Burns isn't the only person who has reached out to the AG. A new complaint obtained by KTVB, written from a citizen, touches on concerns about misuse of public property through the lens of accessing areas at the Statehouse that are not open to the public. Idaho law talks about the fair use of public property, defined as available to the general public at such times and in such a manner as they are available to the general public. Complaints identify problems with what appears to be lawmakers behind locked doors the public doesn't have access to. So I guess like a lawmaker would have to have some type of security badge to access those areas, or?
Correct. If they were out on the rotunda, not a problem. If they were, out on the Statehouse steps, not a problem. But like I said, it's because they're in a closed committee room that's what feels to me like this is potentially a bit outside of the scope of the law.
Burns is concerned with the impression that these videos are official government stances on Proposition 1, something that would greatly influence some voters.
It appears problematic. It doesn't feel like something that we should be doing, either for or against.
So the law, by the way, was just updated this past year to include the exceptions about I guess, digital or traditional communications, emails and letters, as well as using recordings of the Statehouse action. If you're curious if there is a violation of the law, it's not a massive fine. It's a $1,500 fine, possibly a $250 fine, just depending on the facts of the situation. The Attorney General is charged with investigating and looking into this, and I did speak with his office earlier today, waiting to hear back more in detail. For notes, I also did reach out to the Political Action Committee for insight and their perspective on the question.